Welcome back to my channel. Real quick, so I'm doing another Reddit video, sorry. But the reason why I'm not linking to the stories is if you really want to read them that badly, you can search them yourself. They're not that hard to find. They're really not. So, just so you know. Anyways, I'm gonna do two stories of urban legends that are on Reddit that's under the sub urban legends. So it's a subreddit of urban legends. So the first one is called the Elbow Lady. And this person goes, "This is an urban legend in my town. This was told to me by a group of Cherokee Indians that I used to work with on a Halloween haunted attraction. It goes like this. The sound of her boots echoed through the trees of the surrounding forest as she stomps in the direction of the town that was 12 miles away. With her cell phone raised high in the air, she internally prayed for a signal. Sadly, she was in the middle of nowhere in Royal, Oklahoma, and it was a complete dead zone. Taking a deep breath, she let it out with a growl as she dropped her phone by her side and continued on her way. She didn't know what she ran over, but whatever it was, it shredded her tire, and it flattened almost immediately. Luckily, she didn't freak out and was able to bring the vehicle to a stop on the shoulder without too much trouble. She had recently had a flat, and for some reason, her jack was not in the car when she went to change the tire. Her father, being the safety-conscious dad, made sure she knew how to change a tire and her oil before she set out on her own. You can't rely on others to do this hard stuff all the time, Tammy, he would say. She shook her head and cursed under her breath, knowing he'd be disappointed in her, but wishing he was there at the same time. Peering up at the road, she sees the faint glimmer of headlights sneaking through the trees from around a corner. Spirits lifting, she quickens the pace as she prepares to flag the vehicle down as it rumbling engine comes ever nearer. As the truck roared around the corner, she stepped further into the road to flag them down. She jumped up and down, waving her illuminated phone around wildly in an attempt to get their attention. The truck barreled wildly towards her, and no matter what she did, it never seemed to slow. It happened so fast. 1 second, she was flailing her arms. The next, she knew she was flying. She watched as her phone skidded down the road in pieces before everything went black. She blinked with blurred vision. The distorted sounds of two men arguing in panicked voices and crunching gravel as whomever paced along the gravelly shoulder. She winced as she tried to pop her face up off the rough pavement, but as she tried to move her arms, she found that they didn't respond. She was having trouble breathing, and the sound of her rattling breath scared her more. This is going to be a bad attempt to try and reenact this. Help me, she croaked. She immediately began screaming as the rush of pain flooded her when she tried to move. She clenched her teeth, seeing red. Why didn't they stop? Why did they do this to me? She sees a dark-skinned man's face come into her field of view. His breath reeks of cheap liquor as he slurs to his partner. "She's still alive, Randy," he announces as he wobbles back toward his friend. "No shit, dead people don't scream, you idiot," Randy shouts. Tammy begins to try to sit up and shouts to the obvious drunk individuals. "You'll go to jail for this, you asshole," she croaks out as forcefully as she could. God, if she makes it out alive, she's going to make sure these fuckers never see the outside of a jail cell again. Managing to get up on her elbow, she continues to shout at the men. She shouted for them to help, shouted at them in anger, and basically just shouted because that's all she could do. "I'm not going to jail for no stupid bitches," the agitated Randy hissed between his teeth. "Get in, Jerry," he shouts as he marches around the old beat-up truck. The light beam of the good headlight flickered as he went by it. Jerry followed suit while asking him what he was doing. Tammy's blood ran cold as she soon realized what the psycho was planning, and she began to try to drag herself off the road. Every movement caused anguish, and with every scoot she held in pain. Her legs were broken. She was certain of it. She couldn't feel anything below her knees. Looking back at the single beam of illuminating light behind her, she screamed as the engine roared like a rabid animal. It revved up and down for what seemed like forever, but was probably only a few minutes. Occasionally she heard the men arguing, muffled by the sounds of the motor. She continued dragging herself with her blood-soaked arms towards safety, as she knew she was in trouble and likely wouldn't see the dawn. As the tires squealed behind her, the last thought that went through her mind was how she would never see her family again. And before everything went black, the rage burned white hot with a final scream that pierced the night before it was cut short, like her life. Randy sat in the driver's seat, staring at the struggling woman in the road with blind hatred. This stupid witch should not have been in the middle of the road at night if she didn't want this to happen. Jerry was yelling something in a drunken panic to his right, but it was all muffled. All Randy could hear was the roar of the engine of his old Chevy and his own ragged breaths. He did not want to go back to jail. If the cops came, he would definitely have been in trouble with his lack of a license and intoxicated state. In one instant, he snapped and stomped the gas down to the floor before the squealing of the tires. All they heard was the woman screaming and cursing and telling them they were going to die in jail for this. F that, he thinks, as he slams the truck and drive and rockets forward, hearing as thump as he hit her. Drunken in vengeful panic, he slams the truck in reverse and backs over her. He then rhythmically runs over her back and forth until the only sound that was made was the snapping of bones and squishing of flesh. Backing up after the last pass, he found that the woman's legs were severed below the knee and the arms just below the elbows. She looked more like a roadkill than a person. He slams the gas down on one more time and sped off into the night. He knew he must get rid of the truck and the vehicle would cease to exist by the time first light had come up. He smiles to himself as he just knows that once the truck is dismantled in a scrap pile, he will be able to forget about this and move on with his life. In a smug sort of bliss, he didn't seem to notice the figure on all fours bounding beside his truck. As the sun peeks through the forest, it shed light on a most gruesome scene. Cops and marshals littered the roadway. There were many emergency vehicles lining in the highway with their lights, doing a dance of their own upon the surroundings. All of them were surrounding what was left of an old Chevy truck. The doors were missing. The glass littered the ground like sparkling confetti. And the once white truck was mostly a reddish brown with dried blood. The driver and passenger were mangled beyond recognition. They had to send their dental records for identification so that their families would have some closure. There was one peculiar thing about the scene. Though all around the truck it looked as if someone had taken sticks and drove them into the ground, there were tiny blood-splattered spots leading from the ditch to where it looked like the vehicle lost control. It was as if an animal had ran to them, only there were no animal tracks, no paw prints, no sign that any known creature had made those tracks. Upon toxicology, it was determined that the fatal wreck was caused by drunk driving. Several miles behind the gory wreck, there was a car found with a flat tire on the other side of the road. The owner of the car, Tammy Wheelwright, was never found. There as a bloody spot on the road a ways from the car, but with it being such a rural area, officials assumed the blood was made by an animal that was killed on the road and eaten by wildlife. Strangely, there were the same holes and bloody spots around the area, but no one could find the creature that made such a strange pattern. The vehicle was towed and collected by the family, but no one heard from Tammy Wheeler again. Almost finished. Not long after the incident, there had been many sightings of a creature that roamed the area. The only people that ever saw it were party goers trying to make it home. Frightened calls would come in to 911, claiming a strange creature was following them on the side of the road, only it wasn't an animal. It would try to run them off the road, and the victims would scream and cry to the operator before the operator would hear the devastating sound of a car crash, and the line would go dead. Every single person who called describing an estranged creature on 911 would end up in a fatal car crash, and every single one would have been driving under the influence of alcohol. There have been no survivors from the bits and pieces that the emergency services can get from all the calls. The description of the creature was a pale, black-eyed woman with a disfigured, bloody face and red matted long hair running beside their vehicle like an animal on force. 4 bloody stumps. They need to add in more periods. The department soon dubbed this creature as the Elbow Lady. The exposed bones of the creature's stumps it ran on seemed to catch the eye of the victims before they fatally crashed. Drunk driving in the area has dramatically declined. The story has gone around for generations. Do not drive drunk or the Elbow Lady will get you, and no one makes it out alive. Again, most urban legends are created to teach you something, and I hope this teaches you something. Don't drink and drive. And if you hit someone, don't run off. Call the police. Anyways, the next one's not as long, but it's called, has anyone heard the urban legend of Disneyland's Frowning Mickey Room? In college, I was talking with some friends who frequent Disneyland in California. One of my other friends mentioned how cool it would be to go to Disneyland high on LSD. Not sure if he was serious, nor am I endorsing using drugs. They warned him against doing that and proceeded to tell us a story about how they had friends who did just that, dropped LSD and went to Disneyland. Unfortunately, they didn't hide it very well, acted all goofy and strange, and were caught and detained. They told me that if Disneyland security catches someone in the park on LSD, they take you into custody and lock you in a special room. The room is completely bare except for a chair, and all the walls are bright white and blank except one. They sit you in the chair facing a wall with a giant picture of a frowning Mickey Mouse face staring at you. Then they leave you there for hours. Does anyone who's ever worked at Disneyland know if there's any truth to this? Does Disneyland have a special mental torture room where they put high people? Being in a room sober with nothing but a giant frowning Mickey Mouse face staring at me would be enough to freak me out. I can't imagine how bad that would be for someone tripping. FYI, this story was told to me in 1997, so if it's true, it would have occurred sometime in the 90s or earlier. Out of everything I have read about Disney and Universal, they do have a kind of a holding cell per se for people who, if they're waiting for police to come get them, they are technically sitting in a holding cell, but I can believe that there's an upside down frowning Mickey Mouse cell somewhere. But one person thinks it's true. But I can believe that there is a holding cell if they need to call the police, and the police are on their way but not there quite yet. But I don't know about it being all white and like that. So, but that's the end of this video, and if you enjoyed it, please leave a like or a thumbs up. And if you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe and turn on bell notifications so you know when I post. And I'll see y'all in the next video.